My name is Laura, and the night my family finally said out loud what they had been showing me for years, I was standing in our front hallway, with my back pressed against the door, trying not to shake. My brother was right in my face, so close I could smell the energy drink on his breath. His finger jabbed into my chest as he yelled, "No one wants you here." Before I could even process those words, before I could decide whether to cry or scream or beg him to stop, I heard clapping, slow, deliberate, almost proud. It was my mother. She stood a few feet away, hands coming together, like she had just watched something brave, instead of watching her son shove his sister toward the door. My father stood off to the side, eyes down, silent, pretending he wasn't really there. In that moment, something inside me didn't break. It shut off. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I didn't ask them to take it back. I just looked at all three of them, memorized the way my mother smiled at my brother, and said one word, "Okay." Then I turned around, walked upstairs, and started packing a life they had already decided I didn't deserve. I left that house without slamming the door, without saying goodbye, without knowing that less than 12 hours later, my phone would explode with missed calls from the same people who had just made it clear I was unwanted. If you think this story is about getting kicked out, you're wrong. This is about what happened the next morning, when suddenly I was the only one who could save them. And before we go any further, if stories about family betrayal, quiet revenge, and finally choosing self-respect over guilt speak to you, take a second to subscribe to this channel. That way, even if you get busy, these stories will be waiting for you when you come back. Now let me ask you something. What would you do if the people who pushed you out like trash suddenly begged you to come back and fix the mess they created? Because what they asked me to do next was something they never expected me to say no to. People always say family is supposed to feel like home. Safe, familiar, the place you can fall apart and still be loved. But for as long as I can remember, my family didn't feel like that to me. It felt more like a place where I was tolerated, as long as I didn't take up too much space. We lived in a quiet suburban neighborhood just outside the city, the kind with trimmed lawns, American flags on the porch, and neighbors who smiled and waved like nothing ever went wrong behind closed doors. From the outside, we looked like a perfectly normal family. Inside, though, there was a rule no one ever said out loud. My brother mattered more. His name is Ryan. He's 3 years older than me, and in my mother's eyes, he has always been the center of the story. She talks about him like he's full of potential, even when there's no real proof of it. If Ryan messes up, it's because he's stressed. If he fails, it's because the world doesn't understand him. If he hurts someone, it's because someone else pushed him too far. My father doesn't say much. He never really has. But when he does speak, it's almost always to back my mother up or to smooth things over so nothing ever truly changes. They like to say they treated us equally, but the truth never even came close. I was 20 years old at the time. I worked part-time while taking classes, saving every extra dollar I could. I skipped eating out, skipped new clothes, skipped anything that felt like a luxury. Every paycheck went straight into savings. Not because anyone told me to, but because I learned early on that if I wanted something, I'd have to provide it for myself. Ryan, on the other hand, dropped out of school after 1 semester. He spent most of his days in his room door closed headset on yelling at strangers online. Somehow, that still counted as figuring things out. When he wanted new equipment for his gaming setup, my parents pulled out a credit card. When he wanted faster internet, they upgraded the plan. When he said he was working towards something that was enough for them. When I asked for help paying for a software license I needed for class, My mom laughed and told me learning to be independent was good for me. At dinner, every conversation revolved around Ryan, his games, his stress, his plans that never really went anywhere. If I mentioned a good grade or a project I was proud of, someone would glance at their phone or change the subject. Eventually, I stopped trying to join the conversation altogether. I'd clear the plates, refill glasses, wipe the counters, not because anyone asked me to, but because it was easier than sitting there feeling invisible. It wasn't always loud or explosive. That's the part people don't understand. Neglect doesn't always look like yelling. Sometimes it looks like being expected to understand, to forgive, to stay quiet. When Ryan took money from the small cash jar I kept in my room, my parents called it a misunderstanding. They told me not to make a big deal out of it. They promised he'd pay me back. He never did. I learned that in our house, I was supposed to be flexible and patient, while Ryan was allowed to be careless and defended. Still, I told myself things would get better, that once I finished my classes and landed something steady, I wouldn't have to be home much anyway. That thought carried me through a lot of late nights and early mornings. What my parents didn't know was that I was quietly working towards something important, something that could change everything for me. I was preparing an application for a small but competitive scholarship. Nothing flashy, just enough to help cover a few classes and give me some breathing room. The entire application came down to one project, one digital file I had been working on for weeks, squeezing it in after long shifts and exhausted evenings. That file wasn't just schoolwork, it was my way out. And the night everything finally fell apart, that file was sitting on my laptop. That night started like any other. I came home after a long shift, my feet aching and my head buzzing from hours of noise and small talk. All I wanted was to go upstairs, open my laptop, and make a few final changes to my project before calling it a night. I remember thinking, just get through tonight. Tomorrow will feel lighter. I pushed the front door open and stopped. The house wasn't quiet. I could hear Ryan's voice echoing from the living room, loud, excited, yelling into his headset like nothing else in the world existed. My stomach tightened as I walked in. Ryan was stretched out on the couch headset, on fingers flying across the keyboard of a laptop sitting on the coffee table. My laptop, the one I had paid for myself after months of saving. The one that held my entire project. For a moment, I just stood there frozen. "What are you doing?" I asked. He didn't even look at me. "Relax. I'm just using it," he said, eyes glued to the screen. I stepped closer and saw the screen flashing with game windows. My project folder was still there, but when I clicked into it, my chest dropped. The main file wouldn't open. The preview was gone, just a blank icon staring back at me. My hands started shaking. "Ryan," I said sharper now, "what did you do?" He rolled his eyes and shifted the laptop slightly away from me. "Don't touch it. You're messing up my match." "You were on my laptop," I said, "and you messed up my file. I have a deadline." He scoffed. "It's just some design thing. You can redo it. Don't be so dramatic." Something snapped in me. "That design thing is weeks of work," I said. "After every shift, after every late night." He finally stood up, pulling one side of the headset off. "Oh my God," he snapped. "You always act like a victim." "You've taken my money," I said. "And now you've taken my work." The moment I mentioned the money, his expression changed. "You lent me that," he said. "Get over it." "You took it from my room," I shot back. "And you never paid it back." He stepped closer, chest puffed out. "You think you're better than me because you work some little job." "I think working at all matters," I said. "And I think you walking all over everyone doesn't." That was when the front door opened. My parents walked in, arms full of groceries, mid-conversation. They took one look at us and didn't hesitate. My mom moved straight to Ryan's side. "What is going on?" she demanded, already looking at me. She's freaking out over nothing, Ryan said. I was just borrowing the laptop. I turned to them. That's mine. I bought it myself. He corrupted my project. My mom sighed like I was embarrassing her. It's just a laptop, she said. You need to learn to share. Your brother had something important tonight. My father nodded slowly. If the file's gone, you can redo it. You're talented. You'll figure it out. I felt my throat tighten. It's not just the file, I said. It's everything. He takes what he wants, and you always defend him. Ryan laughed. Because you are the problem, he said. You're always whining. He stepped closer. So if you hate it here so much, why don't you just leave? The room went quiet. My mom didn't stop him. She folded her arms, watching me like she was waiting for a decision. Maybe I should, I said. Ryan smirked. No, he said. Maybe you should. Then he shoved me. Hard. My back hit the door, knocking the breath out of me. And that's when I heard it. Clapping. Slow. Sharp. My mother's hands coming together as she smiled at him. Finally, she said. Someone said it. My father looked away. Something inside me shut down completely. I straightened up, smoothed my shirt, and looked at all of them. Got it, I said quietly. Message received. Then I turned and walked upstairs to pack, while they stayed downstairs, already talking like the problem had finally solved itself. I didn't rush when I packed. Not because I wasn't hurting, but because something in me had gone completely calm. I folded my clothes one piece at a time. Jeans, a few shirts, my work shoes, the laptop charger, the envelope with the little bit of cash I'd been saving. Every zipper closing felt like another thread snapping. Downstairs, I could still hear them talking, not asking if I was okay, not wondering where I'd go, just talking about me like I was already gone. I didn't slam the door when I left. I didn't announce myself. I just walked out with my bag, stepped into the cold night air, and felt something strange. Relief. The quiet outside felt gentler than the silence inside that house. I loaded my things into my old car and sat there for a moment, hands resting on the steering wheel. I looked back at the house. No one came to the window. No one opened the door. That's when it finally sank in. They really didn't want me there. And maybe I didn't need them the way I thought I did. I drove toward the city with my jaw clenched and my thoughts spinning. Halfway there, I texted my friend Melissa. Can I crash at your place tonight? Long story. She replied almost immediately. Of course. No questions. Just get here. When I arrived, she opened the door in sweatpants and messy hair and pulled me into a hug without saying a word. That hug broke something open in me that I'd been holding shut for years. We ordered cheap takeout and sat on the couch with the TV on low. I didn't talk much. She didn't push. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I didn't have to explain myself to exist. I slept on her couch that night, wrapped in a blanket that smelled like laundry detergent instead of tension. There was no yelling through thin walls, no footsteps pacing the hallway, just the distant hum of traffic and the quiet feeling of being somewhere safe. The next morning, I woke up to my phone buzzing on the coffee table. At first, I thought it was a glitch. The screen kept lighting up, vibrating, stopping, then starting again. When I finally grabbed it, my chest tightened. 32 missed calls, all from the same 3 names. Mom, Dad, Ryan. My notifications were stacked with messages. The first few were exactly what I expected. Stop being dramatic. Come home right now. You're blowing this out of proportion. There was one from Ryan that just said, "Nice job making everything about you again." I stared at the screen and felt a hollow laugh rise in my chest. They pushed me out, and somehow I was still the problem for leaving. I set the phone down and went to the bathroom, splashed cold water on my face, and told myself not to care. But when I came back, there were more messages. The tone had changed. Please pick up. This is serious. We need to talk. I opened one from my mom. Emily, we need your help. Call us back. Your help. That stopped me. For years, I'd been the one quietly fixing things, covering small gaps, cleaning up messes no one wanted to acknowledge. But they'd made it very clear the night before that I wasn't family when it mattered. Melissa leaned against the doorway, watching me scroll. "Let me guess," she said. "They need something." I nodded slowly. "Yeah, I think they do." I didn't call back right away. I sat there, phone in my hand, staring at the missed calls, wondering how fast someone can go from unwanted to necessary. And whatever they were about to ask me to do, I already knew it wasn't going to be small. I didn't go back right away. Part of me wanted to ignore every call and pretend I was just a normal 20-year-old crashing on a friend's couch. But another part of me, the part that had been trained for years to step in and fix things, wouldn't stay quiet. So later that morning, I grabbed my keys and drove back. The drive felt different this time. Less like going home, more like walking into a meeting I hadn't agreed to attend. The house looked the same from the outside. Same lawn, same porch. But when I stepped closer, I noticed a stack of envelopes sitting on the table by the door. Thick ones, official looking. I could see bold words through the plastic windows. "Final notice. Delinquent account." My mom opened the door before I could knock. Her eyes were red. Her hair was pulled back in a way that made her look smaller than I remembered. She didn't hug me. She didn't apologize. She just stepped aside and said, "We need to talk in the kitchen." My dad was already sitting at the table, papers spread out everywhere. Ryan was slumped in a chair, arms crossed, staring at his phone, like this was all mildly inconvenient. No one asked how I was. On the table were credit card statements, printed emails, and one envelope with the word foreclosure stamped across the top. So I said, keeping my voice flat, "What's going on?" My dad cleared his throat. "Your brother made some mistakes," he said. "We've been trying to handle it." My mom jumped in before he could soften it too much. "He took out online loans," she said, eyes flicking toward Ryan. "Some in his name, some in ours." Ryan didn't deny it. "He thought his streaming would take off," she added quickly. "He thought he could pay it back." I almost laughed. "Streaming," I said. "You mean yelling at strangers with 10 viewers?" Ryan finally looked up. "That's not the point," he snapped. My dad sighed. "The interest rates were higher than we realized," he said. "Now the accounts are frozen, the credit cards are maxed, and the bank is threatening legal action." "How much?" I asked. My mom swallowed. $15,000. The number settled into the room like smoke. I understood immediately why my phone had exploded that morning. "And you called me," I said slowly, "because you want me to fix it." My mom reached across the table, palms open. "You have savings," she said. "You've always been responsible. If you just help us get through this, we can keep the house. We'll pay you back." I felt something cold and steady rise in me. "You'll pay me back," I repeated. "Like when Ryan took money from my room. Like when you protected me last night." My mom flinched. "We were upset," she said quickly. "Things were said, but this is bigger than that. This is our home." I looked around the kitchen, the table where I'd done homework, while Ryan bragged about his games, the counters I'd wiped clean 1,000 times, the floor where I'd stood while my brother shoved me, and my mother clapped. "I care," I said, "but not enough to destroy myself for you." My dad's jaw tightened. "We're asking you to help your family," he said. "That's what family does." I met his eyes. "Did that rule apply last night?" Ryan scoffed. "Oh my God," he said. "Are you still crying about that? I barely pushed you." I turned to him. "You didn't just push me," I said calmly. "You showed me exactly where I stand." My mom's voice went sharp. "So you're just going to let us lose everything?" I took a breath. "No," I said. "I'm going to let you face the consequences." The room went silent. Then I spoke again. "If you want my help," I said, "there's a condition." They all looked at me. "You're going to admit what you did," I said. "Publicly. To everyone you've lied to about being a perfect family." My mom stared at me. "You can't be serious." "I am," I said. "And if you can't do that, then this conversation is over." For the first time, They looked scared. And for the first time, I wasn't the one begging. I didn't expect them to agree. So when my phone buzzed late the next night and I saw my mom's name on the screen, I almost ignored it. But something told me to read the message. "Please," she wrote, "tell us what we need to do." I stared at those words for a long time. There was a time when that message would have undone me, when I would have rushed in, opened my savings, and tried to save everyone, no matter the cost to myself. But that time had passed. "You want my help?" I typed back. "Then you're going to tell the truth. Publicly." She replied almost immediately. "What do you mean?" I took a deep breath and let years of swallowed anger settle into something steady. "You're going to post on Facebook," I wrote, "from your account, where family and friends can see it. You're going to admit that you favored Ryan for years, that you let him use my money and my things, and that you stood there and clapped while he shoved me out of the house. You're going to apologize to me by name." The typing bubble appeared, disappeared, appeared again. When her reply finally came, it was short. "That's not fair." I stared at the screen. "Neither is asking your daughter to erase $15,000 of your mistakes," I wrote back. Then I set my phone down and went to bed. The next afternoon, my friend walked into the room holding her phone. "Have you seen this?" she asked. I hadn't. She handed me the screen. It was my mom's Facebook page. Front and center was a long post, already full of comments. She didn't say everything exactly the way I would have. She softened some parts. She called certain things misunderstandings. But the truth was there. The favoritism, the money. The night my brother pushed me, and she clapped. And right in the middle of the post, my name. People were shocked. Some wrote things like, "I had no idea." Others said they were heartbroken for me. A few tried to defend my parents, but most didn't. Messages started coming in from relatives I barely spoke to, cousins, aunts, people telling me they believed me. My mom texted me a screenshot of the post. "We did what you asked," she wrote. "Now will you help us keep the house?" I stared at that message longer than I expected to. I thought about the younger version of me, the one who would have paid anything just to be chosen. And then I thought about the quiet peace I'd felt sleeping on a couch that wasn't mine, in a place where no one expected me to disappear for their comfort. "I accept your apology," I typed, "but I'm not giving you my savings." There was a long pause. Then my dad called. I let it ring. Another message came through. "You're being cruel," I replied with one sentence. "Facing consequences isn't cruelty." After that, things moved fast. The bank didn't care about apologies or public confessions. The notices became final notices. My parents had a move-out date. They sold what they could. Furniture, electronics, that expensive gaming setup they'd gone into debt for in the first place. It wasn't enough. Ryan lost his part-time job when the financial mess caught up with him. The neighbors noticed the for sale sign. Then, the moving truck. The image my parents had spent years protecting cracked in full view of everyone. And this time, there was no one left to fix it for them. I watched it all from a distance. I hadn't ruined their lives. I hadn't taken revenge. I had just stopped sacrificing myself to hold everything together. And somehow, that was enough. As someone who has spent years listening to stories like this, I can tell you something many people don't want to hear. What Laura did was not cruel. It was not selfish. And it was not revenge. It was a boundary. In families like hers, there is often one person who is quietly assigned the role of the fixer, the one who stays calm, the one who sacrifices, the one who absorbs the damage so everyone else can pretend things are fine. Over time, that role becomes an expectation, and eventually a trap. Laura didn't destroy her family. Her family was already collapsing under the weight of favoritism, denial, and avoidance. All she did was step out of the line of fire, and when she did, the truth became impossible to ignore. Many people believe forgiveness means going back to the way things were. But real forgiveness doesn't require self-betrayal. It doesn't demand that you keep paying the price for someone else's choices. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and for others is to stop rescuing them from consequences. Laura chose peace over approval, clarity over chaos, self-respect over guilt. And that quiet kind of healing is often the hardest to choose, because it doesn't come with applause. If this story made you pause, or reminded you of something you've lived through yourself, take a moment to let us know by tapping the like button. It helps more people find stories that matter. And if you want to keep hearing real, thoughtful stories about family boundaries, karma, and healing, make sure you subscribe to the channel. That way, these stories will be here for you whenever you need them. I'll leave you with one final question. If you were in Laura's place, would you have stepped back in to save them one more time? Or would you have chosen for once to save yourself? Thank you for listening.